All right, we are back at bed 23, and this is going to be a little bit of maintenance. But the one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to cut these scapes off. These are what you call hard garlic, I don't know what they're called now. You know, gardeners will know. If you get the scape, it's only from one kind of garlic. Your regular garlics, I don't know if there's a regular and a not regular, but oops, my scissors. So this is a garlic scape. And this is coming out of the bulb. Oh, hardneck varieties, that's what it is. So it comes out of the middle of your hardneck varieties and it gives you the scape. In here is a flower. But garlic has been so harvested over the years and made to grow that it only grows from its bulbs. It will not grow from a seed. As far as I know, there isn't any. There probably is one or two that will grow from a seed. This isn't. I'm just trimming this. The one nice thing about garlic scapes is you can chop these up and use them in recipes that would normally call for garlic. It is a mild garlic, so people that don't like garlic might like it, but it can just be chopped and used in your garlic. The benefit of cutting these, I should have cut them. If I was going to harvest the garlic, I would have cut them a long time ago, because your bulbs will be significantly less. It's not that they won't get big, but they won't get as big as they could than if you harvested these scapes. So if you grow hardneck garlic, you need to cut these scapes. I'm just going to put them over here. I don't usually, unlike the garlic, when you harvest it, you let it dry. The scapes you don't have to let dry. You can I just literally take them in the house and clean them up, cut them up. I'm cutting off the dead ends. If I would have harvested them on time, they wouldn't have these dead ends on them. So I don't want that. So I'll cut those and I will get the rest of these out of here. There's a lot of them. So what happened was with this garlic, and I know I've said it before, but I will say it again in case you're new to the channel. I left the garlic in the ground. Normally you plant your garlic in the fall and then you harvest it in June or July. What happened was I never harvested it. I left it in for yet another year. So this is what happens. Well, actually the scapes would have happened anyways. But the thing that happened was that there is 5 or 6 garlics now all competing for the same space. In essence, they were planted too closely, but they weren't really planted. I had a good bulb probably the prior year, but I didn't harvest them. I harvested a lot of my garlic. I had way overplanted, and I had the best garlic year I have ever had. I must have had at least 400 big bulbs, and this bed was just the one I didn't get to. So I was able to give a bunch of it away. I was able to dry some. I'm looking for the scapes now. There's probably 1 or 2 left. There always is. And then what I'm going to do with this bed, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to back this up just a little bit. You can see that there's still little weeds in here. In the back of this bed, there's a volunteer sunflower and there's a volunteer hollyhock. So what I'm going to do, since I'm not ready really to plant, I will be planting soon though. I just want to knock these weeds down. You don't want your weeds to get too established, because the more they get established, especially after you've gone through all that trouble to clean the bed, and I think 2 of my beds are prime examples of that, and you don't want to have to do that all over again. So I'm just going to knock these weeds. What the Stirrup hoe does is it kind of cuts the weed top from its root base. But the other thing it does is that I have to be careful of is it does dig into the soil, so it will bring up more weed seeds, because in all of your soils you have what they call a seed bank. It started, can be hundreds and hundreds of years old. I don't know how old they can be. They still find plants every once in a while. They pop up that they thought were extinct, and maybe it was because the land was disturbed. But you're going to end up, because I'm disturbing the soil, I am going to be bringing up those weed seeds that have been laying dormant, that are just waiting for the right conditions. And for them, it might be I uncovered them. They're now at the right depth. They're now getting the right amount of moisture. They're now getting the right amount of sunlight. And some seeds germinate with sunlight, some seeds germinate in the darkness, some seeds germinate just a few inches below the soil. That's why sometimes when you plant too deeply, your seed doesn't come up. Well, maybe it did, but it didn't have enough energy to finish coming up. Or it just didn't know it was supposed to be germinating because it was too deep. So you just want to stay on your weeds a little bit. I'm just pulling these greens out of here because a lot of these greens are grasses and they still have their roots. So here's a perfect example. Here's a grass and you can still see it has its roots. If I leave that in the garden and there's the little bit of moisture and it doesn't dry out and die, it will reroot itself and grow. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to just pull some of these greens out of here because they really stand up against the dirt. I haven't dressed this bed or covered it. If I would, that would stop a lot of more weeds from germinating, but I'm just not ready yet. I just picked up some new batches of seedling mulch that are seeding mulch. It's a straw that I can get locally. It's inexpensive. In prior years, I was using compost as mulch, and it just wasn't giving me the results. The soil was very dry. So far, I've noticed with the seeding straw is that seeding straw, however you want to say it, straw. The soil is staying a lot moisture. So this soil, if you can see it, let's see. It is just dry and super crumbly. Plants don't want to grow in this. You know, they want something that is holding on to some moisture. If I dig down a little bit, it starts to get harder. And plants don't want to grow in that either. So this is the seedling straw. What it does is it helps to hold that moisture in so that this turns into something that when you put it together, it stays together. I mean, I wouldn't call this a sand. There's no way my clay soil could be a sand. This is just, it's a good soil, but you wouldn't know it because it's so dry. So your soil needs to be protected. What happens with the sunlight is it bleeds out the nutrients. You know, it keeps it too dry. You know, your decomposers won't work in here. Your earthworms won't come up. They don't want to be in this. They want to be in something that gives them something they can chew on. So I will get to planting this soon. I just brought my seeds outside, so I'm working on that. But it's weed popping time, so I had to show you some weeds, and I had to pop some weeds out of the ground. So I did that. I did a little bit of garden maintenance, and again, this was bed number 23. Signing off. Happy gardening. Okay, you know what I've realized since I told you about my garlic? I'm going to show you exactly what happened with the garlic. All right, I'm going to move the camera. Cut this out. Unless it turns out funny because I fall. Then I'll send it to America's Funniest Home Videos. Okay, I invested in a whole $25 tripod here. Okay, so here is the garlic that I trimmed. Got a sunflower behind it and some hollyhocks. Here is the garlic that I trimmed. And this is, like I said, I left it. I had grown the garlic. Now it would have been 2 years ago. Left it in the ground. So it should have been harvested last July, and it wasn't. So what happened is those garlic bulbs now that were growing probably a nice size. I'm going to have to do both sides here. So those garlic that grew, now each one of those decided to make a plant and grow again. So you'll see what I'm left with. Hopefully these come up. So see, instead of getting one garlic head, I have a whole bunch of little garlics. You know, I should be getting bulbs that are quite a bit bigger. They're actually about the size of all of these. They're probably not going to be very heavily cloved. If they are, they're not going to be great at it. But these all grew in the same bundle. So they all competed for nutrients. They all competed for space. And so now I am left with garlic that is small. It's not going to go to waste. I'm going to take this garlic. I can still peel it. I'll probably slice it and dry it. I can still use it as a mild garlic powder, because garlic loses a lot when it's been cut, because the cutting process is what releases the things that make it taste so good. So the minute you peel it and start dealing with it, it's not as good. But I just wanted to show you, I've said several times, this is what happened. I pulled it up, and this is what happened. All of those, that should be one bulb. That really should be one bulb. But it's not. Every one of these tried to grow a little plant. And every one of these is probably trying to make little bulbs. So they're not even going to be good enough to save. I wouldn't save them and replant them. And the reason is because when you plant your garlic, you want to plant the biggest bulbs you can get. Even when you're going through the garlic that's been sent to you, if you've ordered whole bulbs, you want to pick out the bigger ones and use the little ones as dinner. When you're saving your garlic, when I pull the garlic that I have up, I'm going to save the biggest cloves and turn around and replant them in another month or two when it's ready to. So I just wanted to show you, I've said several times about this garlic. I don't really want to harvest all of it right now. I just wanted to show you that, yes, that's what I'm up against. I just put it on my bench over here. So these garlics I've harvested previously, and you can see they're nice and dry. So I leave them out so that they can dry, and now I can come through and it'll be easier to peel these. You can't peel it fresh, but these you can see the cloves inside. But see how small they are? They're just so small. So they'll be good for something. I could probably just roast them in the oven, make a nice garlic paste with them. But that's what happened. So I just wanted to show you, because I think I mentioned it in my tour that I did this. I mentioned, I've walked by it a couple times and mentioned it, but I wanted to show you. So as a gardener, that's just what you deal with. And there's a big ant on my phone. So can you leave, little Mr. Ant? No? Okay, well, I'm going to flick you off then. All right. Bye for now. Happy gardening.